been a while since we've done that. Good evening, everyone. I call the Thursday, July 27th, 2023 Peninsula School District Board of Directors meeting to order. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I'd like to point out we're missing one of our board members this evening. Lori Glover is on vacation with her family, so she's not here, but I think she will be trying to watch if she can. Item 3 on the agenda is approval of our agenda for this evening. Is there any discussion prior to the vote? Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried. The agenda is approved. And just a reminder, when we're speaking up here, if you could turn your microphone on and speak into the microphone so that everyone can hear us, please, and thank you. Item 4, we're going to roll on to comments from the community. We have just a few tonight, but since it's been a while, I'm going to remind you of our of the board policy and procedure 1400. About meeting conduct, order of business, and quorum. Policy and procedure are available on our website. By adopting this policy, board meetings must be conducted in a civil, orderly, and business-like manner. This means that whether we are school directors, district staff, students, members of the community, or some other guests, we must all follow the same standard of civility during school board meetings. We are pleased to be able to provide options for addressing the board during this meeting, and this is an opportunity for our visitors to be recognized and make brief comments. Each speaker has a maximum of 3 minutes or less based on the number of citizens requesting to speak. Additional time may be granted as a reasonable accommodation for a disability or a language interpretation. There is no mechanism whereby a speaker can donate some or all of their time to another speaker. No individual may speak more than once per regular meeting, even if there is time remaining, and public comment period is an opportunity for the board to listen to individuals on educational issues, and board members are encouraged to listen attentively. So with that, we have 2 speakers this evening, so I will call Carly Jones up first, and then after Carly Jones will be Paige Wells.
Oh, okay. Hi. Carly Jones is my little right here, Jackson. I thought that I'm just going to be battling people tonight, so this is exciting for me. I own a home in Gig Harbor. I have worked in Gig Harbor for 16 years. My son is starting kindergarten this fall at Pioneer. But I just wanted to say I've heard comments at these school board meetings before that don't speak for me, for what I think the school should provide to this beautiful young man right here. I do support universal school lunches. I know it kind of got scrapped, but I just wanted to throw that in because I heard that was a thing recently, so I support that. But I wanted to say I support the school sex education program as it is. The American Academy of Pediatrics has stated comprehensive sex education programs have demonstrated success in reducing rates of sexual activity, sexual risk behaviors, STIs, and adolescent pregnancy, and delaying sexual activity. Many systematic reviews of the literature have indicated that comprehensive sex education promotes healthy sexual behaviors, reduced sexual activity, reduced number of sexual partners, reduced frequency of unprotected sex, increased condom use, increased contraceptive use. And it does also go beyond risk reduction by covering a broader range of content that has been shown to support social, emotional learning, positive communication skills, and development of healthy relationships. We will discuss all of that when you're a little bit older. I believe children should be taught accurate history. I trust the teachers that are trained in education to judge what that means. And I feel like children should not be afraid at school to express who they are. Often there's a valid reason that children don't feel comfortable doing this at home. If they don't feel comfortable doing that at home, school should be a safe space for children to explore themselves without judgment. An LGBTQ plus inclusive education can help to reduce the risk of mental health issues among children and young people. The risk of anxiety, depression, and suicide is extremely high for individuals who identify as LGBTQ plus. And inclusion supports a student's ability to empathize, connect, and collaborate with a diverse group of peers, and encourages respect for all. All students deserve to feel welcome at school, including students who identify as LGBTQ plus and or come from LGBTQ plus headed families. So I was going to put a Taylor Swift line at the end, but since I don't have to combat anybody else, it doesn't make very much sense. So I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Next up, we have Paige Wells.
Hi. So I am kind of in the same boat as Carly, just here to speak on a few things. There's a lot being discussed nationwide and in our own state that I just want to make a comment on and I'm going to read so I don't forget anything. I'm here tonight to make a comment as a voting citizen of this community. I stand with parents, students, teachers, and staff in opposition to Moms for Liberty, Conservative Ladies of Washington, the Blessing Group, Informed Parents, whatever they want to call themselves. I want it understood that their goal is for political power, not the education or protection of students. They want their school board candidates to write policy, control curriculum, and hire and fire teachers. Also, if they want God in schools so badly, this is their reminder that there are plenty of private schools available to them in this town. It's become very clear that this is their end goal anyway, dissolving public and replacing with private. I've attended several of their meetings here in Washington, and statements were made by political leaders with a sentiment of no one cares about the school board positions, so it's an easy way to gain great power and influence. They went so far as to explain how not to follow the current school board training. The laws are up for interpretation, they have lawyers, and they will be protected. It was also explained that there is training for any candidates that win on how to use the power once in position. Know that this is not a grassroots organization, and there are images of the current Moms for Liberty Pierce County chapter chair at this conference with DeSantis. It's comical seeing this group supposedly claim not wanting to co-parent with the government. This is the same conference where another Moms for Liberty leader said she stands with a member that quoted Hitler in her local newsletter. I want it known that they are wrong. There are many of us that are paying attention and care very deeply that every student receives a safe, high-quality, well-rounded, inclusive education. Everyone should be paying very close attention and getting registered to vote. Thank you.
Okay, that's it for public comment this evening. So next up is our consent agenda. Is there any discussion prior to the vote? Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second? It has been moved by Jennifer and seconded by David. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried. Consent agenda has been approved. We have an addition that we're going to throw into the middle of our agenda this evening. I'm going to call Chris Hagel up to the podium to welcome some very special people to our district.
Thank you. So the board has authorized us, and for the last few weeks we have been working to fill 2 school safety officer positions for the school district, one for each of the comprehensive high schools. They will also help the feeder pattern schools when needed. We had over 100 candidates for this position. We were able to narrow it down to 6 candidates that last week we put them through panels with parents, with students, with teachers and administrators, and also district office staff. Out of that, we came to a final interview yesterday, and I would like to happily introduce to you our 2 new, come on up guys, our 2 new school safety officers here in the Peninsula School District. Here we have Michael Yonke and Brent Campbell, and so we want to give them each just a minute or so to talk about themselves and say anything they want to say. You can take it out of the... Okay.
Good evening. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here. My name is Michael Yonke. I lovingly go by the nickname Moose, so feel free to call me Moose. I bring a lot of experience to this new position. My background is fire, police, and EMS. I currently work across the bridge at Tacoma Community College in the campus public safety role, and have experience in teaching and certifying people to respond to emergency situations. I am a first aid and CPR instructor. I am a women's self-defense instructor, and I'm sure there are others along the way. Just once again, want to say thank you for having me. I really am looking forward to building a program from the ground up and bringing safety and security and a sense of well-being to everyone that is involved in the district. So thank you.
Moose, can you say where you will be next year?
Yes, ma'am. I will be at Gig Harbor High School. Roll Tide.
I don't need to move this. My name is Brent Campbell. I also have a lot of law enforcement background, former police officer with the Redmond Police Department. I am now, well, not anymore, but currently a security specialist with the Monroe School District, where I have spent a lot of time dealing with the same problems and the same issues that the school district here deals with. So very well versed in that. I own a private investigation company that my son runs, so he's loving this move because he can take a step up. My passions, I know I'm looking for a house on the water. Everybody, if anybody knows a house on the water. I love to kayak. I love being outdoors, and I really do appreciate this opportunity. I cannot wait to get started. I'm really excited. Just the warmth that to walk into something like this is not something I've received before. And I've never seen a community so excited for safety and security. So I know we're both going to do our best, and I will be at Peninsula High School. Thank you.
Well, I would like to thank you both for being here. Like I mentioned, we've been waiting for a long time, and obviously we're in the business of serving children. These are the most precious people to us. So their safety, their security, their well-being is paramount to this board, I know, and our community, our teachers and staff, and their safety and well-being. So we're looking forward to, I just think you're going to love the kids as we do. And thank you for being willing to step up and stand for the kids.
Thank you. Thank
you. Okay. On our reports this month, we have our monthly budget update. So Ashley Murphy, if you want to come up to the podium.
Okay, so we got it working this time, so I threw it into PowerPoint so that I will be able to scroll through. But in doing so, the numbers turned out really small, so you're going to see that on the actual agenda, we've attached the copy where you can read the numbers in a much better format. So I'm going to start going through that. There's only a few areas that I'm specifically wanting to highlight this time. I don't like to continually focus on the same pieces of the slide. They're fairly self-explanatory, but when we're looking at our revenues, which is the slide that we're on currently, we're particularly looking to determine what percent in that sort of maroon semicircle, what percent of our revenues are we over what we anticipated collecting at this point. And so you can see that we were supposed to be at about 80.5% at this point of the year. We're currently at 82.5%, so we're about 2% over where we had anticipated or budgeted. You're going to see in a future presentation right after this one or somewhere after this one, by the end of the year, we will have collected about $2 million more than budgeted. So that's where you're seeing that additional percentage increase come in. On our expenditures, so on this slide, where we tend to focus is on that sort of neon green semicircle. We have a board goal to keep our ending fund balance between 4% and 6%. So through the semicircle, you can see that it's currently at 7%. That's where it would be ending at the end of the year without any unbudgeted expenditures. You will see during our budget presentation later on, we're not going to hit that mark, okay? And I'm going to show you why. So if we go into the next, I'm going to jump ahead. So this one, so that solid blue line is where we're tracking for this year so far. So you can see that we're going to be ending the year with the lowest fund balance that we've seen in the last 4 years, and that's just with our budgeted expenditures. So we have unbudgeted expenditures that have come up. It's very, very common for school districts to have unbudgeted expenditures. Those unbudgeted expenditures are going to pull that ending line down. We knew that this was going to occur this year, so it shouldn't be shocking. And that's where that budget extension piece comes in that we're going to be presenting on in a little bit. But there's a direct correlation between this movement on this slide and where we're ending and the need for that budget extension that we'll talk about later. When we start looking at our specific expenses and where we're trending right now, you can see that towards the right-hand side of the column, you're going to see that there's a negative amount of about $4.8 million right now. That's meaning that to this date, currently, we're about $4.8 million expenditures over revenues. So we have spent more money than we have brought in. This is to be expected given our current dynamics of where we had started the year with as much of our payroll and benefit expenses that we had. So we went through the process of doing the layoff in order to balance our payroll and benefit expenses for the coming school year. But given the fact that we're in summer and all of our expenses are really coming to peak, that's where we're going to start seeing ourselves drive that ending fund balance down now as we finish out all of our contractual obligations for staff. This piece right here goes into greater detail in regards to all of our individual, what's considered more of your basic education expenses. And so on this specifically, you can see areas where we're doing really, really well. If you look, for example, at 011, it says BEA buildings. Those are our building budgets. So our individual buildings, all 17 of them, get dollars allocated to them at the beginning of the year to spend towards items that are needed for kids over the course of the year, kids or staff. So you can see that we have a positive dollar value left as of right now of $72,000 spread across all 17 buildings. This means that we have staff that, admin, that are being really, really meticulous with their spending, and they're not overspending their building budgets. This is an area where we tend to see, especially at the end of a school year or a fiscal year, we tend to see overages, and we're not seeing that right now. So we know that our administrators are really watching their bottom lines in each building, which is a good thing to see. So with that being said, that's going to be sort of the end of my monthly budget update. Now, with the upcoming months of July and August, those are technically our two highest state-funded months, okay? So we get 23.5% of our general apportionment in the course of those 2 months. So you're going to see that sort of skew our numbers come the next presentation when we're reporting on July, and then again when we report on August. So, any questions? Okay. Yep. Okay.
All right, moving on to item 7, old business. Item 7.1 is a second reading of a policy revision that we have for policy 2022, electronic resources and internet. Is there any discussion prior to the vote? Is there a motion to approve item 7.1?
I move to approve item 7.1.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved by Jennifer and seconded by Chuck. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is carried. Item 7.1 has been approved. Item 7.2, second reading of policy revision 2023, digital citizenship and media literacy. Is there any discussion prior to the vote? Is there a motion to approve item 7.2?
So moved. So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved by David and seconded by Jennifer. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is carried. Item 7.2 has been approved. Item 7.3, second reading. This is policy adoption 3245, students and telecommunication devices. I would just like to make a brief comment on this and thank Chris for all the work that went into it. This is something that's going to affect our students significantly. This is about pertaining to using cell phones and devices in the classroom. And so I want to thank Chris and Creston and staff all who put together a lot of work and engaged student voice in this. We had our students weigh in and talk about this policy and procedure and how they thought it would best be implemented. And they're very supportive of restrictions. They want to get back to work. They want their friends to be back to work. And then after that, Chris also worked with our administrators. So there was a lot of input in this. I think everyone will be pleased with the outcome and how we can keep kids engaged in schoolwork, and parents can feel pretty confident that if they need to check Life 360 and things like that, this accommodates all of those things. So I'm really proud of this. Yeah.
I know the board approves a lot of policies every year, and, you know, oftentimes we've already read them beforehand, and so this, like you said, is going to be significant. I know every year we have our kickoff at the schools where all the teachers and staff and everyone comes and rah, you know, we're starting off the year. Last year was awesome. But how are we going to make sure that these policies are actually gotten out there and accepted and followed? I guess, you know, because it's easy to pass a policy. How are we going to make sure it's implemented?
I think those are excellent questions. And before Chris responds to them, I do want to remind all of us that the best way to communicate any policy or procedure change is that the principals are well-versed and have deep knowledge and understanding, and then they share it with their immediate staff. Because each building behaves differently, looks different, from an elementary all the way up to high school. And so what that looks and sounds like is really a principal's opportunity to really lean in and affect change in their building. So Chris, do you want to respond to that?
Sure. Yeah. As Natalie alluded to, I met with 8 of the secondary principals last week and talked through this policy and talked through kind of the student feedback and how they wanted to tackle this going into the year. And one of our schools, Peninsula High School, did implement a cell phone ban at the end of school last year. And one of the things they found is they agreed as an entire staff in that building that this is never going to be successful unless we all do it the exact same way. And so that was the feeling of all of the principals, that they feel that their buildings are going to get on board. We will work with them in August at the admin retreat and go over this and rehearse again and say, hey, you know, this is only going to, you know, I had a parent reach out to me last week and said, you know, I really am happy about this policy. I just want to make sure that all schools are doing it the same way. And so we just need to reiterate that again to our principals, that, you know, we can't have a difference in what's going on, or else people kind of think things are unequal in our schools. So.
And
Yeah.
we spend 4 days in an administrative retreat, and this will be part of the conversation for them to be able to brainstorm and work with each other to make sure that they're all aligned. So, and I know that parents are actually asking for this, and I know as an adult, I'd like to be less connected to my phone as well. So to be told that I don't need to be on it is actually refreshing. So it will be interesting to talk with students about this as this continues on.
Yeah, and I think one of the exciting things, or if you want to talk about it.
No, I was
you
going to
met
ask
with
if
him.
you would
Okay.
touch on that, please.
Yeah, so one of the exciting things is when the board met with some of the students really wanted to put together a PSA and hold an assembly to convince other students that, you know, this is a good thing, this isn't a bad thing. And so we're going to be working with those students before school starts, early August, to get this PSA written and filmed, and we'll have a video for to share. And when I told that to the principals, they were like, oh, we want to make sure that our kids get involved too. And so all of our principals are interested in taking part, not just the ones that were here to give feedback that day. So
I think it was we had our new student reps, and then the ASB president for Gig Harbor High School. And Tanya and Lori and I were there. Unfortunately, Chris got pulled to another meeting, but it was our first blush at having them really work together on something across all schools. We didn't have anyone from Henderson Bay there, but the interesting thing is students from both of the other high schools said this is never going to go at Henderson Bay if we don't include them in the process. So that's part of the process. But this was a really great exercise in accomplishing something together. So the students are on board. So
yeah,
it's a good thing. Jennifer, did you have something?
No, that was it, the PSA to get
Okay.
the word, yeah, and
Yep.
then, and the follow-on for families, The second part is, we won't get anywhere with that. Sorry. It'll be, we really need to be able to communicate this well to families. And assuage any fears about not being able to communicate and understand, that we do have accommodations for things. Sure.
Yeah.
So,
Our
thank you.
schools are happy to pass messages along. Not everything needs to be a text.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't need to hear from my kid all day.
I know. Okay, any other discussion prior to the vote? Is there a motion to approve item 7.3?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second?
It has been moved by Chuck and seconded by Jennifer. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried. Item 7.3 is approved. Item 7.4 is a second reading of Policy Revision 4000, Public Information Program. Is there any discussion prior to the vote? Is there a motion to approve item 7.4?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
It has been moved by David and seconded by Jennifer. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried. Item 7.4 has been approved. Item 7.5 is the second reading of Policy Revision 6608, Security Cameras on School District Grounds, Property, or Buses. Is there any discussion prior to the vote? Is there a motion to approve item 7.5?
I move to approve 7.5.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Jennifer and seconded by Chuck. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is carried. Item 7.5 has been approved. Moving on to item 8, new business. 8.1 is our general fund extension for the 22-23 budget. So Ashley, I don't see Jamie, so Ashley is going to come up and lead a discussion about the proposed budget extension.
Okay, back again. So, we knew back last August that we would be doing a budget extension this year. In order to balance the budget to even get the year started, we had to clear any type of what, in my world, is called capacity, in order to balance our expenses to our revenues and get a budget approved. Then what the district has done over the course of this last year is go out for new revenues, right? We needed to bring in new revenues, which we were successful in doing to the tune of about $2.3 million. So we were able to bring in new revenues, but with that, we had increased expenditures. And so we have to go through and we have to request a budget extension through the board, through a public hearing, and then to OSPI. Because technically, we cannot expend more than what was previously approved without permission. So with that being said, what we're looking at is, this was our original budget. So we had a beginning fund balance of approximately $13.8 million that we started the year with. We had anticipated we'd bring in about $148 million worth of revenues. We knew that we were going to have expenditures surpassing our revenues. And then we'd be ending with an ending fund balance of about $8.8 million. Fast forward, our beginning fund balance was approximately $13.8 million. We brought in $150.8 million. Our expenditures are actually looking to be closer to 160, almost 161 million, leaving us with an ending fund balance of $3.7 million, which is approximately 2.3% of expenditures. So it is low, and we know that it is low. We have already put plans in place, and when we end up with low fund balances at the start of the school year, districts, accrual-based districts, which is what we are, we deal with some cash flow issues. So it's not that we don't have enough money or we won't be bringing in enough money over the course of the school year. We will. It's just the timing of when those dollars come in. So we're already putting a plan in place to get through the first few months of the school year with this lower starting fund balance. Now, what we're doing right now in order to try to bolster this ending fund balance is we're trying to claim all grant revenue that we could possibly be entitled to and get it in prior to August 31st, okay? Because that because those are all reimbursement based, it adds to fund balance every single time we do that. So we're trying to do that. In addition to doing that, we are working on our, what would just be called our normal summer expenditures. There's areas where we can trim back right now. We're trimming back to keep the dollars in the bank. But we still have to plan to have enough capacity to spend in case things come up. Because if we don't give ourselves capacity and we go over budget, that's not good. So with that being said, we're having to turn around and request a increase to our budget by about $7.5 million. So we've added the new revenues, which were our grant revenues, revenues from other district that we were bringing in on both the transportation and the special education side, and our local receipts. So that could be anything from fines, fees, money in for meals, all of that. So we added all the new revenues. And then for the expenditure side, we're seeing costs associated with summer school, school supplies that we're going to be providing in the upcoming year. The grant expenditures, so when you get in new revenues for grants, you still have to have capacity on the expenditure side to spend against it. And then our August contracts. So the district was paying classified individuals on an off-cycle contract. So they would start their new year contract for classified staff in August instead of September, and they were splitting their contract year. That has caused some issues with the union, especially with the layoffs that had occurred. And so in order to true it up and get them on a true fiscal year contract, we have to pay out August days in a separate contract, because technically they worked their August days last school year and were paid for it last school year. So we have to pay them for this August days in a separate contract to incur the expense this year so it does not roll into next year. So it creates additional expenses in this school year. In addition to that, whenever you go through layoffs, staff are entitled to cash out their leave. When they cash out their leave, you incur that expense at that time versus booking it as a liability and it rolling into a next year. So it saves us money in the long run, but we do incur additional expenses temporarily. And so with this budget extension, it gives us enough capacity to pay all of that, get us fresh for the new year, and then I'll give you a little teaser. Budget's not fully complete right now, but our budget for next year, the totality of the budget, it's looking good. So, okay, any questions on the budget extension?
I just have one question.
Okay.
In this, the revenues you have at 150 million or so, is that inclusive of the grants that you're hoping to?
They're grants that we've already secured.
Okay.
So it's about $2.4 million overall that we've secured either through additional grants, and about $1 million of the 2.4 was through increased enrollment.
Okay.
And go ahead.
Bond rating,
No impact.
no impact. We're already locked into what we have.
You have a goal.
Okay.
So because this district doesn't have a policy that sets forth a specific minimum fund balance, you guys are good.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I'd just like to, your teaser was what my question was gonna be. And, so you said we're looking good. Are we gonna be back within our 4 to 6% range?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah, you're gonna be back in your 4 to 6% range. And in addition to being back in your 4 to 6% range, we've actually, I know,
That's coming
seriously.
next month, right?
So
Okay.
we've trued up the imbalance between salaries and benefits and dollars for material supplies and operating costs. So we've been able to right that ship. So this district will have more dollars to be able to provide additional educational opportunities for kids in the coming school year. So that's why presenting something like this that shows us dipping can be scary, but in reality, we just needed to get through this year. We knew this was going to be a tough year. We did the hard work necessary to right everything for next school year. So the totality of next school year looks good. We just need to get through the cash flow situation that occurs when you drop so low. But it will be fine. That's my job. I will get us through that. I've already had plans and I'm working through it, but the totality of next year is good.
So just so you're on the record, publicly, people, we passed our levies this year. We didn't get any of the money this year.
Correct.
Can you just quickly touch on that so that the community can know why?
Of course.
What's coming?
Yep. So the levy that we just currently, well, technically the two levies that we just currently passed this last February, those do not start until technically January 1st of 2024. Our first collection of those levies is in April. So our last collection on the previously approved levy occurs this October, and then that levy has been expended or taken in. And then the two new levies will start in January 2024 at the rates that they were passed at, and the first collection comes in April. And so that's what we're budgeting against right now for the latter half of next school year. Any other questions? Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, item 8.1.2 is the public hearing. So now we'll have the public hearing on the 22-23 budget extension. Any person wanting to make comment is welcome to. Normal rules apply and must be related to the budget extension proposal. So is there anyone here who wishes to make a comment on the proposed budget extension? I will call one more time. Anyone wanting to make a comment on the proposed budget extension? Okay. Oh, sorry, I have to ask 3 times. Is there anyone here who would like to make a comment on the proposed budget extension? Great, thank you. Item 8.1.3 is approval of the resolution for number 2306, the extension of the 22-23 budget. Is there any discussion prior to the vote? Is there a motion to approve resolution 23-06?
Make a motion that we approve resolution number 23-06, extension of the 22-23 budget.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion is carried. Resolution 23-06 has been approved. Okay, item 8.2 is board committee reports. Does anyone have committee to report out? No?
Not really, everything's still coming up. Let me plug that in. We did a brief meeting today with KP Kids, but that was very brief. Everybody's kind of coming into next year. There was some discussion about the community center at Evergreen Elementary and how soon we could have that up and available. There's some groups that need that space. Yeah.
Ashley and Patrick and I will be working on that.
Okay.
That was on my list as well.
Okay. Yeah.
It should be very, very soon.
Okay.
And Patrick's not here, so we'll have to remind him.
And who would manage that? The principal of the school there? Would that be Hugh? That manages scheduling?
Yeah,
The
there is a
scheduling and all.
facility, to put it on the record, there is a facility person that we have, a staff member.
Okay.
And Patrick and now is being supervised under Ashley's
Okay.
purview. And so we look forward to opening that as soon as possible to the community. I know it's important.
Yeah. Okay. We'll have more conversations. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, without any other committee reports, we'll move on to item 9, which is the superintendent's report.
All right, I will be brief here. I want to thank Ashley, and I just had a mind blank there. Jamie, thank you. Ashley and Jamie will be presenting at the WASBO conference. It was a difficult year, especially you've only been in the chair for a year. And I keep telling her, it's going to get so much easier. It really is. But I appreciate so much the attention to detail and the fact that when she came in and said next year's budget is good, I was like, well, that's the first time we've had that conversation. And so very appreciative. And all of the staff, all of my cabinet staff, I know that this last year was difficult, and this next year we are planning for, and we're really we're excited. We have brought on new staff, and new structures, and so we're really looking forward to that. We have moved people around to make sense in our district central office so that our human resources and our HR people are working together in the same building. And with the tech people, which is amazing, and thank you to our technology people that are running this as well. They are spot on and amazing. I think Tanya and I would both just be very appreciative. They have moved everyone and set everyone up. And then most of all of the learning staff are in the main office. So we have moved things around. I want to thank Chris and all of the staff. I know that many of our central office staff were part of looking at the SSO. I want to thank the staff, the board members for sponsoring that and really being the executive sponsor for that work. I'm very excited. They are very excited about the role, but I think behind the scenes, what I would want the public to know is that I'm looking at Chris right now. I believe that when we did LinkedIn, we had over 200 applicants, and you had to actually sift through 100 applicants to whittle it down to 2. And so I think that speaks highly to, number one, the job description, and also for Peninsula School District's reputation. And so it was a really difficult decision, and I'm very excited to bring our 2 SSO. I also want the public to know that it's not just the high school, that it is a feeder pattern, and so they both will be very active in getting to know the entire vertical, so Peninsula High School and the 2 feeder middle schools, and then all of the elementaries, knowing the principals and knowing the community, being out in the community. They both spoke to the opportunity and what they want to bring, and they want to be out in the community visible so that people know them and building trust right away. So just know that if there was an issue at another school, they would also be available, and those would be their schools. So I think that Chris has been doing everything security, and I just have to say, well done. And it's only not even August yet. So thank you for your hard work. He's been just working hard. I would also say another hard worker who's not here today, but Patrick. Patrick still has all of his hair. He told me that, and I've seen evidence of that, but he has been working nonstop. We just were at KPMS today and Kopachuk Middle School. There are multiple other facility projects all over the school district because we have so many facilities. We see one right outside the window here, and the deadline is the first day of school. So everyone has the same deadline. And I have to say, I'm very, very impressed. So we're very impressed. We have some things, I think, that we need to, weeds seem to be growing. And so we will be addressing those with both long-term and short-term solutions. And then the last day of summer school was today. So that was pretty amazing. We had quite a few students. I don't have the exact number. We'll have a report at the next board meeting, Dan, if we could do that. And that is it. We have people that are working every day, planning. We have administrative retreats planned. All of our principals have their staff meeting. We are ready for the next year. And what I have said repeatedly is people need a vacation. They need to spend time with their families and their children. They need to, see their moms and their dads and all of that. And so encouraging people to vacation while they can, because our weather has been pretty amazing. I think worldly, we might be number 1. And with that, thanks.
Okay, item 10, board discussion and comments. Who wants to start? Anything to say?
No, I've said it. Spoken enough today.
Okay.
I'll just make a brief comment. I just wanted to thank Ashley for your presentation. I've heard from a couple members of the community that, just as predicted, the Forecast 5, I think, has really gone a long way to show that graphic representation of a lot of these complex budget issues, and being able to see sort of the needle move each month and being able to see how, the budget actually works month after month with that graphic layout has really been fantastic. So the more we can continue that and get those reports and get that more regular. It's been really great, so thank you for that. And what else? Oh, one other quick thing. As we're in summer and, trying to vacation and unplug for a little bit, I want to put a plug in for people to, get in the back of your mind, start thinking about this next school year as the year. Last year is when we were trying to right the ship and get back from COVID, but maybe, this year I'd really like us to think about the year that we finally get our community organizations and get all of our PTAs and PTOs and get our booster groups and get our education foundation, and we can get all of the, Kiwanis and Rotary, all of these amazing groups that were also kind of victims of COVID, of the school shutdowns. Really open up our doors and get those groups back in. And I'm really looking forward to some of the things that, looking ahead and to our calendar to be able to feature those groups, give opportunities for our community to be aware of who's even out there, because there are so many people I know that are really excited and anxious to come alongside our schools. And I think this next year, I'm predicting we'll really see an increase in that. So anybody listening, if you're not enjoying the weather, start thinking about how you'd like to engage with our schools, because we're going to have a lot of opportunities next year.
Yeah, I wasn't going to mention that, but since you brought it up, I'll piggyback off that. I know years ago we used to have group community roundtables. We bring people together. I think I mentioned it a couple board meetings ago that it would be nice if we could bring those said groups in, and then we have a perfect space right here to have them come in, have a big round table. And we used to do this. Dan's been here long enough where I think when I first got on board, Dan, didn't we have like 50 members of the community, and we did a huge 30-year outlook and brought folks from everywhere for that. So not necessarily do some of that kind of work, but just to bring all the groups together, identify who they are, introduce themselves. I think that'd be cool. Shout out, it's already been said, policy 3245 for me is long overdue. I think for a lot of people it's long overdue. I've been talking a lot this week, sorry about that. Having the student buy-in on 3245 is critical. The fact that Chris and his team has been able to get all the educators or staff across the district to buy in and realize if you can't do it in one and not in the other, it's got to be consistent. And the fact that you got that part of your training, I'm really happy to hear that. So,
Speak, sorry, into your mic, please.
My
Just
mic's
closer
on.
to it. I know, but we have
I thought I talked pretty loud.
Well, I think
So anyway, I can repeat all that if you want. So I'm just happy about that. I'm really, really excited. We've been talking for several years now about SROs. Obviously, we found out, unfortunately, that we couldn't make that happen, the school resource officer. But the fact we brought in super qualified SSOs, I'm just super thrilled to have them on our campus. I think it's shows our students that we care about them. It shows our staff, and it shows our community that we care about them. The only thing I would like to ask maybe Chris is, since the board wasn't a part of the process, where can we see position descriptions and what authorities these SSOs have? Is that somewhere, something we could get?
Yeah, I'll get it to you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'll just keep it short. It's been such a joy to see kids out playing, and I just really, adding on to what Kristen said, it's so important for vacation for adults, but also for the kids. So last night I had, 6 or 7 17-year-old kids who still wanted to have a sleepover. So even for the big kids, summer is joyful. So I had a chance to get away with my family. I hope you all get some downtime. There was an email that went out yesterday that I sent to a lot of people, and I got immediately a bunch of bounce backs, vacation emails, and that just made me smile because people are taking advantage of time off. So our next meeting will be a business meeting here on August 24th at 6:00 p.m. at Swiftwater, and we will now break into executive session. So the board will meet in executive session with legal counsel for approximately 60 minutes pursuant to RCW 42.30.1 5.110 to discuss litigation or potential litigation. No action will be taken in the executive session, and we will adjourn after that.